Functions. Functions are essential in programming because they allow you to group code into reusable blocks. This makes your code more modular, easier to read, and easier to maintain. In this particular section, we are going to look at defining and calling functions, parameters and return values, and in and out parameters. Now let's start with a playground here where I'm going to start with defining and calling functions. A function is defined using the func keyword followed by a name, parameters, and a return type if applicable. Now let's look at an example. So I'm going to start with creating a func greet, and it takes the parameter name string, and inside this, so it doesn't have a return type, I'm going to say print hello with the name and an exclamation mark at the end of it. And to call this function, all you have to do is greet. It automatically fills up the rest of the stuff, and here you pass the string. I'm going to say Vivian. Now if I run this excuse me, if I run this, probably see what it does is it goes through this function, calls the function, and then prints hello Vivian. If I change it to John, run it, it'll go through this and say hello John. This case. So this is how you can define and call functions. So in this particular example, what you saw is greet is a function that takes a single parameter name of the type string and prints the greeting message. Now let's look at next one, which is parameters and return values. Now functions can accept multiple parameters and can also return a value. In the previous one we saw it takes only one parameter, doesn't return anything. So in this particular case, another example, function add, where I'm going to pass three parameters. First, two parameters, a and b, both of the type int, and it returns back an integer value. So what this will do is, this function, or this is the signature of the function, is also called signature of function, which is called add. It will take two parameters a and b and return back the addition of that as an integer back. So I'm going to say to return values by using the return keyword a plus b. This is what the return is. Now let's say let result, which is the value returned from here, to add a is, let's say, 5 and b is, say, 4, and I'm going to say print result, pass the result value in there. I am going to comment this, or just get rid of the previous one and run this. So in this case, it takes the value a and b, passes to the function, where 5 and 4 gets added and returned back into the result value, which is printed as 9 as its output. I can change this again. 4 and 4 should give me 8 back. So this is how in this particular example the add function takes two parameters of the type int and returns their sum also of the type int. In and out parameters, let's get rid of this. In out parameters allow a function to modify the value of a variable passed into it. You use the in-out keyword to indicate an in-out parameter. How does that work? Let's say a function, let's say, to swap two values of two variables. First one is a, which is in-out of the type integer, and then second is b, which is also an in-out of the type int. And then here I'm going to say let temp equal to a, then I'll say a's value is b, and then I'll say b's value is temp. So this is how I can swap the values of two different variables. Now I'm not going to return anything back, which I want to show you that it changes the values of those particular variables that I pass. For example, x equal to 10, I'll say variable y equal to 20. I'll say swap values x and y. It uses the and just because it's an in-out type of variable. Then I'll say print In some programming languages, this is also said the address is part of the variable, which means the address is changed. So in future, if you want to print it out, you'll actually see that you didn't pass the value, but you passed the address. So it changed the reference, whatever the value over there is, it changed that value. Go print it out. You'll probably see that 10 and 20 got switched to 20 and 10 in here. So that's how in out works. In this example, you saw the swap values function swaps the value of two integers passed to it. Now, if you don't specify in out, it will not change the values and you'll not see the difference. For example, if I do this and run this, it'll give me an error because you cannot assign a value to a parameter. A let is because a is a let constant. That's why. So you can't do this in anyways. So that's why I'm going to go back and put it back the way it was. Run it again, and there you go. The values are swapped. Now let's look at some more examples by one of two things that will probably you can code along with this. In this particular function, what we'll do is function to calculate the factorial of a number, and the second one is to reverse a particular string. Now how does the logic for factorial work? So func, let's say factorial of a number which is, let's say, int, and it returns back int. And in here I can say if number is equal to 0, then I say return 1, else, because the number if 0 is factorial is 1. If it's not, then it's number times factorial. So I'm going to call the same function again, number minus 1, because you keep on reducing the numbers until you get to 0, and then you return that 1 and multiply with that. So that's how factorial works. And let's start with let 5. Let's say number equal to 5. Let's create a variable, constant, and then the result is factorial of the number which is 5 in this particular case, and we will print that out. Say factorial of number which in this case is 5 is slash result. So this, what it should do is it will pass the number 5 here, and it's not equal to 0. So 5 times factorial of number minus 1, which is 4. So 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So that's what it will keep on doing, and it will give me, now my math is not that strong, but factorial of 5 is 120. Let's give a simple number. 2 times 1, which is 2. You can say 3 times 2 times 1 should be 6. Similarly, 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is 24. And so you can kind of change these numbers, play around, and see if this function works. If it doesn't work, leave me a comment and we can probably solve it together. Next thing that we want to look at is function to reverse a particular string. Get rid of this. Let's say func reverse string. Say string is of the type string and returns back a string. Now in this case, reversed string equal to empty. I'm going to create an empty variable, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go each and every character in the string, and then I'll say reversed equal to whatever that character is. I think since it's a string, I'll probably do this plus reversed. So whatever the value is in reversed, so it can keep on going through that. And what is it missing? The return. Since the returns a string, I'm going to pass it back the reversed value. Now let's say original string is swift, let reverse string equal to reverse string, and I'm going to pass it original string here. The reason I gave here underscore is because I wanted to not have a key parameter to pass here, so I can just give the value of the actual string. Once I have this, I can say print. Let's print both of them. Original is original string, and reversed reversed is reverse string. Let's run it. I think everything is good. Hope so. Its original is Swift, and if you see, the reversed is TFIWS. If I give another word, let's say world, run it, probably take the world as original, and it reverses the string and gives back the string. So in this particular section, what you've done is you've learned how to define and call functions. We also saw how to explore functions with parameter and return values. We practiced using in-out parameters to modify variables within a function. Next step is uh, next thing after functions is let's see, what do we have next is the collections. Now functions are a critical part of writing modular and maintainable code. With a solid understanding of functions, you can now move on to working with collections such as arrays, dictionaries, and sets. We already mentioned arrays and used arrays here or there, but we'll be using them in the next section, where I'll probably go over in more detail about them. That will help you manage and manipulate groups of data effectively. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and stay tuned.